Right there. Shut those Gardula boys up.
Good luck.
I'm sorry.
That's all
I
right.
hope everybody's having a good time. Yeah, very lucky with the weather today. Yep. Everybody knows we're here for my parents' 50th anniversary, and I wanted to thank everybody first for coming. We've got people coming from Palm Springs,
And Annie.
Jersey,
All right on Bricktown.
All right. And if you came those directions, that was a long drive down that road.
And I got
Oh yeah. And Aunt Ruthie came in from Florida.
With the hurricane behind her.
She didn't want to go through her fourth hurricane. But, well, as I said, really, thank you for coming. We've got four groups of people here. Some of you we haven't seen in a long time. There's a group of folks from East Orange when they were children, my parents. We've been friends for 75, almost 80 years.
Wow.
Long time.
Yeah, nobody's going to raise their hand.
There's a few of you from Brick, or from down the shore, from when my parents
Or
were
Vero.
15, 18 years ago. We thank you for coming. And the other thing we have here is a lot of family. Other than I think about one or two cousins, most of us are here, and the same with our aunts. We're also very lucky in that only 3 people out of the wedding party are not here. And, you know, after 50 years, that's very unusual. Yep. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, I didn't really have an idea. And of all places, I thought about it at Walmart. Behind their anniversary card. I don't know if you've been there, but they only had 3 anniversary cards for 50 years. They had 1 for 60, 3 for 50. And that tells you something. I mean, the last 50 years being married is a long time, and it's very special. And I think in this audience here, I think we have 4 or maybe 5 couples who've been married 50 or more years. It's very unusual. You know, and to get 50 years, that's a lot of luck and a lot of broad shoulders. And you're the lucky part, you're the broad shoulders.
Papa, Papa! You can't see Nana.
You might be out of the will.
It wasn't my mother being dragged off the corner of Cole's drugstore or candy store 50 years ago. And it wasn't my mother brushing her teeth with Desitin. Really, 50 years is very special. Most of us here are married or have been married and know how difficult that is.
Nancy's back there going, note to self. Follow up with things.
I've been very happily married for 23 years.
Nice comeback.
I've been married for 8.
I went back and I thought about this. There was really only 2 or 3 things that were very important to my parents. And what you see here is what was very important to them. Friends and family. As I said earlier, there are some friends here of my parents who've been here for 75 years, going in on 80 years for most of them. And I look around and I see all my cousins, all my aunts and uncles. I see aunts and uncles from other generations, my grandfathers, sisters here. And that's really what's important to my parents, and I think it's important to a lot of us. And when I look back and I think about what makes a successful life and a marriage, to us and my family, because of what my parents taught us, it was really family and friends. So a lot of what was very successful to them is right here around this table. As I said earlier, a few of them are not here with us. But I wanted to thank you all for coming. And if you would, just join me in a toast to my parents. You know, if you have liquor, great. If not,
Cheers.
50 years, the best parents you could ever have.
Yay, here.
Get the kids to do it. Get
good.
Did a good job.
Yes. Leonard. He's named after Val's father. Val's father was Leonard Vina from Italy. This camera does a good job. Say cheese. I know you don't like being in video.
Now, Tony, that test, the day you took the test for the county, I did not steal that test. You're on tape now. Yes, you did. You hit the cigar and you blew in my face. You said you stole that.
Here we go. Toast, toast, toast. Oh, here comes John.
There's a bunch of guys taking tests for the county.
Chris, Uncle Bobby's wife.
Somebody made a comment that aptly summed up today. She's going to remain anonymous, so I won't, say who it was or anything like that. But she said, 50 years, can you believe that stuff? And I think that's a pretty interesting comment to make. Some of my brothers and sisters would also like to say something. I'm John, I'm the middle child. You won't notice any of us in the pictures. But, like Lee was mentioning, some of you we've seen since before we were born. Some of you are the first people we ever saw around the neighborhood. And that's something we'll never have in our life. Of course, we won't have to chip ice and put it in the ice box either. But what I remember most about my parents growing up is that I remember my mother, in a fierce way, fighting for my father. I remember, a lot of you know my Uncle Louie. I remember if he said something flip about my father, it would kind of go unnoticed until my mother would turn. And she'd turn on him and she'd, Louie, in my house? And, no, you won't. And as much as he loved my mother, he was so scared of her. As I'm sure a lot of people who crossed my father that way, my mother was such a fierce advocate for him. When we moved into our house in Whippany, I remember her sitting us down. My father was at work, and I have to remove a lot of the words, but she sat us down and told us how hard it was for us to move there in this house, and if we messed this house up, she would end us right there. And just about to the time I was 19, I remember my mother, if you cursed, she'd say, hey, watch your mouth. But then around the time I turned 20, all of a sudden I heard her, Val, you and your blankety blank blank. So something around 1980 happened. I don't know. And on my father's side, we were 5 kids, all essentially 1 year apart. He didn't miss a baseball game, a football game. In the snow, my mother would be driving us, my father would be driving us to things. We had friends who were at our house all the time, who liked being there. It was a sanctuary of sorts. And, when you're a kid, you think it's because you're such a cool kid or girl, and you realize later that it was because of my parents. Our home was such a pleasant place to be that a lot of our friends liked to be there. And one of my friends emailed me a letter. I spoke to him a little while back, just telling him about the party. And Rick Blacken emailed the letter, which I forgot, but explaining that, saying how much that meant to him at a very difficult time in his life, being at our house. And for us as kids growing up, it wasn't something we always appreciated. But now looking back on it, it's something that was really a treasure for us to have parents that could make a home like that, where our friends wanted to come, where everyone wanted to be. When I look at so many people, but Uncle Biff and Aunt Adele, all the years, the things that stick with you are very hard to say why. but I remember being a little kid and hearing an argument between my parents. And I know certain generations don't like to hear certain things and it's embarrassing or whatever, but I remember an argument or a discussion about the time when you were selling insurance. They were doing the bills. And she's like, you know, this is true. And I remember my father saying, Eileen, and then going through the whole litany of things that your family did for my father's family when he was a little boy. When they didn't have to work, when the Moriello family helped them, brought them food, did all these things. And I was 12 years old, something like that, 10 years old, and I just remember listening to that. And all of a sudden, you were another aunt and uncle that were around the house that essentially became very different right after that day. And so I see all of you here today. I see all the people who are in the pictures that we put up on here. And like my brother, you know, I just hope we can pass to our children 1/10 of that. You know, it's a different world, and some of that won't happen. But boy, you know, Mom and Dad, thank you so much for everything you did.
Amen, John.
Speech after speech. Look at his shoes. Oh, he's a pistol. He's a pistol. Listen.
And we had no heat. He wouldn't give the heat. He used to bang on the radiator. Go down! You're freezing our ass here. I've heard the wonderful things about Val. He's not that great. He's not that great. His wife go out and shovel snow. What kind of a guy is that? How you do all life? Let your wife work. It's a secret. I don't think he's that great. He's not that good. How bad is he?
As you know, about 75 years ago, plus I didn't know between 75 and 80. But all I can remember is his mother and father. I'm sure they left the time was very famous because Jean and my mother was so close to Jean. She was like her best friend. My mother wouldn't learn to speak English. She would go over to Jean, speak to her, and she would speak English, and my mother would speak Italian, and they knew exactly what they were talking about. But, you know, talking about Eileen, she must have been pretty tough because they grew up pretty good. But on the other hand, I can remember when we were kids, we all had a nickname. Irish Bet, and we had the horse, Jimmy the horse, and we had Gumpy. We had all kinds of names. As we all grew up, his kids came over one day and they said, you know, you should see your buddy Rambo. I said, Rambo, what is that? You should see this guy. We can't do a thing without him charging us. Practically knocked us on our tail. That was Rambo.
That's Papa.
Anyway, all I can say is that we had a relationship. He never had a cross word in 75 years.
It's true.
So I think that is great.
I'm the oldest daughter, and there's a story that somebody here in this room urged me to tell.
The Milky Way
And
story.
at the end of this story, I'll divulge the name of that person, because the individual, the identity of that person, is one of the most sought-after secrets in the
The Milky Way story. It's the Milky Way.
And that person has urged me to spill the beans.
Is it the Milky
My
Way?
brother said it very well. We've passed on a lot of things in our family. And the culture, the family folklore has been important. And the Vina family. Vina stories are famous. The Irish side of us likes to laugh and have a good time. The Italian side, we like to embellish the story. So over the years, the stories grow larger. The Decident story Lee talked about. My mother embarrassing us at a church in Cape Cod while she shouted out to the priest. There's hundreds of them. But the most famous story, I'll take you back to 1973. I'm about 12 years old. Now remember, we're a year apart, so the house is loaded with kids, a little bit chaotic. It's a school night. Everybody's scattered in their room doing their homework or whatever. Kitchen is quiet, the dishwasher's running, and you hear Val go up the steps. Now that right there was the odd part. Because usually he had, Stephen, go upstairs and get me this. But he went by himself. You hear the refrigerator door opens, the old avocado green refrigerator on Whippany. The lights go on, rummage, rummage, rummage. Cabinets opening, closing, frantically drawers opening, closing. What's going on? Eileen, come up here a minute. Yeah. So my mother goes upstairs, Val, what's wrong? Murmured voice says, rummage, rummage, rummage. Those blankety blank kids, somebody ate my Milky Way.
The Milky Way story.
No, we had no candy, no sugar, no ice cream in the house. So if it wasn't nailed down, it pretty much went. And really nothing was sacred in a house of 5 children, including your toothbrush. So immediately we were summoned from parts of the house. Now the 5 suspects were lined up. Which one of you kids took my, oh, not me. Now you can easily start to remove suspects. Starting at the top of Lee. Lee was that rebel teenager. He wouldn't have taken the Milky Way and eaten it. He would have thrown it at Stephen. He would have melted it under my pillow, but he wouldn't have eaten it. Mary Beth would not have, because Mary cracked easy under pressure. She stole a quarter one time from a radio and literally sent herself to bed early. So we're all looking at each other. Now the suspects, the key suspects are John, me, and Stephen, because the other 2 are up. Now John, though, was in 7th grade. And John was on his way to go into the Naval Academy. That mold was set early, and he was straight as an arrow, and Mr. Granada didn't tell him to eat that candy bar, so no way did John eat it. Now you're left with me and Stephen. Stephen, the youngest, and myself. Meanwhile, every once in a while, my father would look at my mother, did you eat it? And over the years, as we've talked about this story about who ate the Milky Way, and every year for Christmas, somebody would give my father Milky Ways and we'd laugh. And every once in a while, he'd look at my mother, Eileen, are you sure? And now she says, blankety blank blank Val, I would eat those blankety blank blank Milky Ways again. I don't care, it wasn't me. So this goes on for 35 years. Now you're down, it's me or Stephen. Right, Steve?
Right.
Me and Stephen. It's suspectful that it's one of us. Now you have to understand, 1973, the glow of the avocado green refrigerator, Val in his underdrawers and his little Italian shirt, foaming at the mouth. Who ate my Milky Way like Captain Pete in the strawberry? So there was no fessing up at that age. But as the years went on, there was some conversation that this person had, and a very wise person said to them, you should tell, because you guys are all 40 or almost over, and there's not much they can do to you in it. And over the years, we told Mom and Dad some of the things we've told. But this was something that, no matter what, because I said, you know what, I don't know. I think that's something that person would be nervous about, because you can still get in trouble. But then that person said to me, it doesn't matter, because you don't live there anymore, and they can't ground you or do anything. So you can rule out my youngest brother, Stephen. I
How funny.
We all knew that!
Well, we didn't know for sure.
I was a little bit afraid, but that person was my daughter, who said a couple years ago, what can they, you ate the Milky Way? You got in big trouble. And she said, go ahead and tell him, you can't get in trouble. And I used my best mommy lesson and said, well, your mommy is always your mommy, no matter how old you are. But that is really true in terms of the fun we had.
I think I got whacked that night.
You lie! Boom!
What are you going to do about that? How are you going to make it right?
Retribution.
But I share with what my brothers have said is that we've had a great life as kids. and the stories and the fun that we've had have been just tremendous. So thank you all for coming.
Caroline! Caroline! Woo! Mwah, go do a dance.
A little later, I'm going to set up a TV, a little computer screen with some photos and a player some music. When that's set up, feel free to kind of watch through that. A lot of you are at various stages of their lives.
Talk about it every year.
Caroline.
Caroline.
Touch base with everyone. And so just bear with me. Take this time. I have over here Bob McCoven. He was in my bridal group. We served in the East Orange Police Department together. We were partners in the two-man radio car. He was a great guy. At that time, we made one of the greatest arrests ever made in the city of East Orange, and it was due to his keen observation. We caught 3 burglars from New York, and we were both put in the detective bureau, but it was because of his alertness, and he deserves the credit. At this same table is Bobby Granahan and his lovely wife Ann. We did PBA, police department together, a lot of camping, pleasant memories. We'll never forget those parties. You know, policemen would have our days off together, maybe Tuesday and Wednesday, and we would party till 2, 3 in the morning. At that time, there was the milkman would deliver milk.
5 o'clock and you go to 6 o'clock mass.
Go to 6 o'clock mass. Over here is a young guy, Ricky Haas and Judy, but his dad was one of my dearest friends in the police department. And my kids all knew his dad. We went camping together. We had a lot of fun with his wife, Judy, and their mother, Dottie. Over there is an old friend from the 3rd Ward in East Orange. Any of you people familiar with East Orange, the 3rd
Oh, here come
Ward
the Hildebrands.
meant something. Am I right, Paul? Uncle Paul? Absolutely. Tony was a great guy. He served on the East Orange Police Department for a short while. Became a great success in the Essex County Jail. His lovely wife, Portia, and the children. What?
Courts.
The courts. Well,
Yeah.
good. But you were a great guy and a great guy to be around. And I love you guys for being here.
We love you, Al.
And it was a nice table to be, Bob. All the days in that police department, Mary Ann, it was really, really great. At this other table here are my cousins and my aunt. Now,
Go ahead.
when we were young, the first 13 years
Go
of
ahead,
my
I'll
life,
open up.
every Thursday and Sunday, my father would drive from East Orange to Jersey City. And we spent time with my grandparents. So not my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts and uncles would all be present. We didn't have much money, but we had a lot of laughs, a lot of good memories. My aunt was there, and she was the young one in the family. My father and all his brothers treated her like a queen. And we do have beautiful memories and all of that. It's just wonderful. I come to this table here. It's a big family. Chucky was a policeman with me for a short while. Later went on the fire department. Zini, I see quite a bit where I am, Lions Head. Vivian, when we first retired 18 years ago, we drove to Florida. You and Seth offered your place. We had the bedroom. I'll always remember him going out to a restaurant and he ordered a $25 apple pie. Jane, I remember this. I didn't even have some basis for it. I was on duty, and you were about 17 or 18. I was doing traffic, and I saw you driving my car. How you got this car?
gold cars.
I had nothing to do with it. I had Betty Maria. The other day we received the anniversary card from Betty. Read it. Some great things. And there were some beautiful words in that letter. And we will always treasure it. But what I want to say, for about 15 or 16 years while we lived in Florida, Betty, was no longer with us. Eileen and I, just about every Friday night, we would join to this little Italian restaurant. It was called the Breadies in Orange. It could be raining, it could be snowing, we'd go there. You could smell the garlic as you pulled up the car. We'd hit the bar, the joint was packed. Bill knew the bartenders. We spent an hour with our cocktails. We'd get into the restaurant. We'd have dinner. We'd play the owners, the waiters and waitresses would join us. More than 15 to 16 years. What memories do we have? This was some kids. It was kind of, it was something very good. And I just never forget that. You heard my sons talk about Biff with Mariella. I was 6 months old when I moved to his family house in Jersey City. At what point, he and I started to recognize one another. It was like 2, I was like 3 and 4, and we became very close friends. Parents, we double dated together. We went off to war. He said before, we never had an argument. Well, the reason we never had an argument, because of his disposition and his personality, very kind and considerate a person. I was a little hothead. So we attribute that friendship to Dick. And all through the years, his lovely wife, Adele, I have teased about how lucky she has been to marry into the Montreal family. I know in that family. I know how important you are. And I just want to say that to you, that it's something. Also, over here on this table is Biff's sister, Chicky. Chicky is Biff's younger sister. And we live in the same house at 248 Shepherd Avenue. But what I want to mention, an act of kindness. My brother was in his hospital and he was dying a horrible death. And Eileen and I would go visit him. Every afternoon, she would drive about 50 miles and sit with my brother and hold his hand, give him comfort. And I will never forget that. His friends involved in so forth. Another good thing about being married and so forth, I married into the Moran
Mr. Moran loved all the Italians. He loved the Italians. He loved the Italians.
I would like to say that they never want equal. The nice thing about him now is that he's married to his sister and her brother. Todd is no longer with us. She was killed in a car crash. She was a very lovely girl. But married to the Moran family, they're very special. My mother-in-law was a very, very lovely woman. One of the sweetest women you would ever want to meet. My father-in-law. While I was dating Eileen, there was Pat, Joan, and Ruthie. And they lived at 385 Main Street. And there was a hallway there. And when you dropped your date off, and dropped Eileen off, you had to fight for space in that hallway. That hallway boy sizzle. I have my brother-in-law, Bob Moran. He was more like a brother to me, in many ways. He was my brother. But when we got married, Eileen said to me, you know, my father's been telling my mother that he may not walk me down the aisle and this and that. So we decided we got a tux for Bobby. My future father-in-law decided not to walk his daughter down. He was going to walk his sister down. Other than that, he was going to be the altar boy. Bob McColgan and my brother, right, like, now I'm at the altar and I'm going, geez, I don't know if my father-in-law's coming down. But I looked around and there on the altar was Bob Moran. He was our altar boy. Now what I want to say, besides that, there was another altar boy who was Bobby's age for the. And let me introduce my brother-in-law, Paul Collins.
Oh, after that.
Paul was the great success in our family. And it was because of his way of life, his conviction. But he never flaunted his success in the family. He was always one of the family. And he could have easily been a braggart about his success and so forth. But he's a very regal person. And if you got to know him and knew him, his convictions were very strong in life. And I knew him, he and I knew one another before we even met our wives. He was from the Third Ward. I knew his father was a dear friend of mine. And we've had a very nice relationship over the years. Thank you very much. Up there, they know how beautiful they are. Beautiful girls. Very, very nice. They converse with one another on the telephone. They're good to one another. And it's been a pleasure having a sister. Also, we have our son's in-laws. We have the Wecks, Ed and Mary. Where are you? I can't see the son. One night, Lee came home and he said to me, Dad, do you know a family by the name of the Wecks? I said, sure. He said, I'm dating your daughter, Nancy. Well, Eileen had worked with Mary, and we had double dated with them. So it was a great pleasure that Lee and Nancy matched up together because we knew the Wecks, and we certainly have had a lovely time all through the years. They're retired, living in South Carolina. We love you folks. Our other in-laws, and Dan. Now, where's Mary Lou?
I don't know.
Over here, Dad.
At the bar. He's at the bar. She's at the bar.
This is Stephen's in-laws and Tricia's parents. And they're neighbors of ours. They live in the north. We see them quite a bit. And we share our grandchildren, Andrew and Caroline. And it's a pleasure to be around you guys, too.
Thank you. Beth.
18 years ago, he decided to retire. We left his farm, I lived in it. We found a place called Lions Head South. It had everything we wanted. The most important of all, it had some wonderful neighbors and friends there that we've been friends for 18 years. I have my bocce partner, Jerry and Janet. Eileen and I, we played them as partners. Our opponents, Joe and Grace. And sometimes, Grace, yes. sometimes Grace would say to me, Val, I think Eileen is a better player than you. That was a hard thing to believe. We have Sophie and Larry. I play poker with Larry. It's a great feeling. And then Charlie and Rosebud. And when we played golf, Charlie, Biff, Chucky, with Builders Alliance, this is therapy. We go out, what? When we go out and play our 9 holes and 18 holes, we're young men again. We're 13, we're 14, we're 15, we can curse. We miss a putt, we can say half or something. Charlie and I are the only ones. Biff, Chucky, and Bill Monahan would never curse and say it. But Charlie and I, it was good therapy.
I had the good words, so didn't I?
We have our other boxing opponents, Audrey and Brandy, Lucille and Vinny. And this year, both teams beat us. What happened? The first time in 10 years we lost to them, right? We also see them in Florida. When we go to Florida, we go to dinner together. And it's very, very nice being there. And our other friends, Joe and Susie, we see you in Florida. We have nice drinks together. And the restaurants are good. What I want to mention, I just noticed that Bobby kind of yielded to me just like that.
Not in the back, Val.
Years ago, when Irene's sister, Pat, was killed, we all went to Florida for the funeral. And when we came back, we had a memorial mass for Irene's sister, Pat. And after the mass was over, I invited the whole Louisiana family to a home in Glenridge, providing us with a 100-bedroom, nice day to spend it. Very, very. Another thing about marriage, you get married, you have sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, and all that kind of stuff, and you end up with nieces and nephews. Now let me say something about my nephews. It's really been great being with you guys. But how come you always choked when we played basketball? We're puppies, man. You guys were supposed to be jocks.
The psychological edge.
And then I have my nephews that came in from Arizona, they had me, right? And all the Christmas affairs and the holidays, we got to see one another. Yes, very, very nice. But in this room, sitting at this table, are 3 girls. They're married to my nephews. And these are the 3 luckiest girls. Here we have seated with the Gargiulo boys. There's a girl by the, we knew her, Judy Puppy. Judy and Mary Bell, with dear friends.
How do I get stuck at this table?
But she would come to our house in Whippany, and maybe she was 8 or 9 at the time. And she would come in and she was very shy. And she would stand by the side and look at all the kids playing and everything. And as the years went on, she became part of our family. And when Mary and she played basketball, her father and I would be there rooting for them. When she got married, we were at her wedding, and she was at Arlington, and this and that, and the children, her mother Rita, her brother Michael, mother Stephen, and Judy, we love you like a daughter. It's really wonderful to see you again. And you look like a mom. I don't know if I'm boring you, Bob, but with that, I have 3 daughter-in-laws and a son-in-law. Nancy was our first daughter-in-law. And Nancy, what a pleasure. I can remember when we first visited you in Florida. I told told us you were working as a nurse, and you told your nurse friends that your in-laws were coming down, and they said to you, "Oh, don't you hate that to be around your in-laws?" And your reply was, "Oh no, we had a good time with our in-laws." It's a long time ago, right? Now they're outlaws. Then we have Nooka. Where's Nooka?
Right there.
Over here. Kitchen table. Eileen had a pretty apron on, and she's cooking breakfast. And she says, "Val, what are you going to have?" I said, "Well, I'll have my eggs over late." She got hysterical. She started to cry.
It's true.
I thought to myself, could I have this marriage or not? Thought the same thing. But you know, let me tell you what goes on after a while. I find out that I really, really lucked out. I found out that Eileen was vastly superior to me in intelligence. And I was smart enough to recognize that. I wasn't a macho guy when it came to that. And she became my mentor. I could depend on her for many things. When I would study for my promotional exams, I read a book on supervision, a chapter on administration, organization. She read the same chapter, and we would discuss it. Also, during that period, you know, about 5 kids, I'd be working nights, working part-time, saving money for our first house. She'd have the kids all by herself, doing a great job with it. They really, first 10 years, only knew their mother. We became close. We became like a second baseman and a shortstop. We knew one another's moves. We became soulmates after a while. There's only one way I can describe our marriage. It's like a wheel. And the 5 children and myself, we were spokes around that wheel. But she was the hub. And that's where we received our nourishment, was from Eileen. I haven't bored you people, but I just felt I wanted to say these things.
Thank you.
But the classiest thing, and I gotta tell you, and every guy in this room can remember one story about their mother. And my mother was so proud, the Val and Eileen, she said, "I'm gonna cook him an Italian meal." I swear it's a true story. And it was on a Sunday night. And my mother said, "I'm gonna cook him a real Italian meal." And we used to always have to, who washed the dishes, who set the table, who did this. Not today. Mom's making an Italian meal. And my mother, we're all sitting at the table. My father, who we understood what he was like. My mother was an angel. She brought out an enormous platter of spaghetti and meatballs, but it came from 5 enormous cans of Franco. Those big cans, put them in there and brought them out. She was so proud to serve an Italian meal to an Italian guy. And she said, and I can picture her right across the table now. She says, "Val, how do you enjoy it?" And he said, "The best I
Christmas Day, we got engaged. And everybody was happy. And so Eileen's father said, "Well, let's go. We'll go bar hopping, different bars and so forth." Christmas Day. And so we went out. We came back. My mother-in-law forgot to put the turkey in the oven. We had Chinese food that day. I said to Eileen, if my mother had ever done that to my father, he would have strangled my mother.
What did you tell your mother when she asked you what you had for dinner?
That's right. My mother asked me, she says, what did you have? I said, well, we had roast beef.
That was good.
My mother came out to left. Oh, you left it.
My mother.
When is Eileen going to speak?
My mother's going to talk next, maybe, but before she comes off as too much of an angel. For the first 10 years, we only knew our mother. She was, and she did, and she worked so many. All of us 1 year apart. And one day, my mother was feeling really sick and tired. Just felt awful. It was like a Saturday morning. I remember my father just pushing us into the station wagon. All 5 of us. Come on, your mother has to sleep. Let's go. And he took us out for the entire day. All 5 of us. Your mother's sick. We went out, he ran, we were little kids, we needed naps, we were running around. Shut up, your mother needs to sleep. He dragged us back about 7 o'clock at night. And before we get out of the car, he told us, any one of you opens your mouth in that house and wakes your mother up, so help me God, I'll kill you. We were terrified. We walked into the house. We opened the door, there's a big note. Val, felt better, went to bingo.